Sabrina Carpenter back with a brand new album, Man's Best Friend. We've got to talk about that. We've also got to talk about new albums from CMAT and Blood Orange, plus plenty of new music to dig into. This is the Pop Pod. I am Sam, also known as Pop Sam Cam, and it is New Music Friday, which means it is time for Bop or Flop. We're doing what we do every Friday and bop or flopping the newest music from the week. And it is a particularly big week for albums this week. We have, as I said, Sabrina Carpenter's Man's Best Friend. We also have Blood Orange's long-awaited return, Essex Baby. And then we also have CMAT's new album, Euro Country. If you've been listening to the podcast, you would have heard us cover those songs over the past couple of weeks. The singles from that record, they've been very strong. So I'm excited to talk about the latest single from that. And then I think next week I will give you a full rundown of that album. I also missed out on doing Florence the Machine last week, so I will do it this week as well. I am alone for one more week while Jono is still on holidays. I am sorry, but I will try and bring you an entertaining episode to make up for the lack of guests on the episode. At the end, I'm going to play my full interview with Audrey Hobert, who has released one of the best debut albums of the year, Who's the Clown. Audrey has worked with Gracie Abrams very closely on her second record, but now she's gone solo and is doing her own thing, and it is extremely impressive. So I will play you out that full interview. If you like what you're hearing, if you love the Pop Pod, make sure you subscribe so you just get all the episodes straight to you as a notification when they come. You can also rate it 5 stars if you like what you're hearing. It really helps us with the visibility of the podcast. And finally, if you are enjoying it or enjoying the community, the pop community that we're building, you can go to the Discord in the show notes down below. That's it for the spiel. Let's just get into the new music. We are, of course, starting with Sabrina Carpenter, who has released her album, Man's Best Friend. It follows up from Short and Sweet just a year after the release of that album, which was such a groundbreaking pop record and just completely changed her career. Man-Child has been a big song this summer, certainly not as big as Espresso, but that's kind of impossible to follow up. I have given the album one listen through. You can see the full reaction on YouTube. My thoughts are that it's really strong, to be honest. I really like how Sabrina, John Ryan, and Jack Antonoff have come together all as producers on this record to make something that is adventurous sonically in terms of the genres that it skips through, from country to disco to like 80s soul as well is in there too. But it just feels really cohesive because I think their partnership is really tight now. She obviously knows exactly the kind of artist that she wants to be and is just doing a really good job at developing that without straying too far from the things that made us love her on Short and Sweet, in terms of that cheeky sense of humor, the really metaphorical lyrics, a lot of sexual innuendo, but also a lot of sincerity and a lot of genuine connection on this record as well. I just think she's a really special pop artist. We will talk about this album more in depth, I'm sure. But for now, the song that we've got in Bop or Flop is Sabrina Carpenter's Tears.
I get wet at the thought of you. Being a responsible guy. Treating me like you're supposed to do.
Tears is the second single. It follows on from Man-Child, a totally different vibe from Man-Child. This one is very disco in kind of a kitsch way, which I love. There's something quite on the nose about the strings on this one, but what's more on the nose is the lyrics. This is basically a love song for respectable men, and she's basically saying that nothing gets her more turned on than a respectful man. The chorus, the first time I heard it, I found it so jarring because, I don't know, there's almost something manual-like about the way that she gets through that. But by the end of the song, you just cannot help but deny her charisma and deny that she is so likable. And so there's something about this song that almost feels like a more clumsy tongue-in-cheek Espresso, and I like that. I think that the production on it is really, really tight, really cool. I like that it goes into disco without being just like a full dance floor banger. There's something restrained about it at points, which I think is cool. It's not my favorite song on the album from what I've heard, but it's definitely one of the stronger ones. And I just wonder like what people's appetite is right now for Sabrina Carpenter in terms of what kind of hits they want from her. Because for some reason in my mind, I'm kind of feeling like they want a Juno kind of vibe, but this gives more Espresso. And obviously that's going to be more difficult to follow up because Espresso was gigantic, its own thing, much to itself. So I'm going to be very interested to watch how Tears does, but I definitely do think that this has hit potential. It certainly has meme potential, and in turn means it has TikTok potential. So I can see this one flying up the charts. Like we did last week, I'm going to be rating the songs out of 10 because I don't have a partner to bop or flop back and forth with. So for Tears, I think I'm going to give it a solid 8. I think that this is another great moment for Sabrina Carpenter. And I think when you're just really confident about the kind of music that you're making and the collaborators that you've got around you, it's really difficult to miss. There's a lot of confidence radiating from her right now, and I really like that. 8 out of 10 for that. The next one is Florence the Machine, who is returning with her 6th album, Everybody Scream. This is a very interesting track from her because I think that we've always known that Florence exists in this witchy realm that almost verges on horror, but she's always almost gotten there and not quite. And on this one, she's just gone fully into the intensity of it. This definitely comes from a horror genre. There is literal screaming in it. There's something guttural about her response to what she's talking about on the song. And this is the thing I love the most about this song, is it is about her role as a performer. And almost, I guess, as you become a popular musician, you become an idol and a savior in many ways to some people. And this is really unpacking that role and talking about the pressure that she feels, the pressure where it gets to the point where she does just want to scream and let it all out and let go of that tension that can build. But at the same time, this is a directive. Like, everybody screams. She knows that when she's on stage, she commands this kind of power where she can make people do anything that she wants to do. And I really find that kind of duality of ideas really interesting to unpack. On top of that, I think sonically it's very interesting. The screaming bit is just really, really intense to listen to. And then the post-chorus gives us something more melodic, something to grip onto, and more of a Florenceism, something that we've become very used to hearing, like a grandiosity in the melody that we got very early on in her career on an album like Ceremonials, which I love as well. I'm just really excited to hear her almost unhinged on this record. I think that it's going to be a very interesting one, and I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a pretty stellar way to start this record, and I'm very excited to hear what else she has in store. Next artist, out of Ireland, Semat with When a Good Man Cries. I've been extremely impressed with all the singles from this record, Euro Country. The song Euro Country, the title track, has been really, really doing it for me lately. I didn't know what the subject matter of it was, and I wasn't educated at all, in fact, on what happened in Ireland after the financial crisis of like 2007, 2008, and the devastation that it brought on the country and the way that it's impacted a new generation. And CMAT does a really beautiful job of explaining that. She's just such a good storyteller, which brings me to When a Good Man Cries, because this, again, just a beautiful narrative running through it.
What do you do when a good man cries? And in the world to keep him up at night. How could you do what you said you wouldn't do like all the other guys?
And I think what strikes me the most with this is how she's able to match the intensity of the subject with the production. There's a lot of vocal layering on this one. It builds in a really nice way, and towards the end gets quite full-bodied and boisterous in terms of the production. Her voice is really, really good. don't know if we have many out there doing it quite like CMAT right now, being able to marry these knotty subjects with pop songs in a way that feels really unforced, really natural, and really easy to take at face value. And at the same time, really easy to dig into and mine deeper and get something really, really deep from it. I haven't had a chance to really delve into the record, but it's something that I'm going to be doing for sure, and I will share my thoughts on it when I do that. But this is another slam dunk from her, and probably an 8 out of 10 moment for me for CMAT. Next up, we have Baloo Brigata. They are a duo out of New Zealand who've been building very steadily but very impressively. They've been on tour with 21 Pilots, winning over a legion of new fans, and they have released their album, which I'm going to pull up the title because it is called Portal. It is their debut album. The track So Cold from that album has done incredibly well. And what I like about them is they are making alternative music that doesn't skew too much into the pop world. I think that pop and alt have like kind of combined so much these days that it doesn't feel like we can have the sort of alternative moment that we had with music back in the early to mid 2000s, but they stay very much in that alt rock lane and do an incredible job in it. That said, Sideways is probably the most melodic moment that we've gotten from them. Yeah, it has a really soaring chorus. Of everything I've heard from them so far, this is the easiest one to latch onto. Melody-wise, the chorus is really, really warm. I just think they're doing they're just a really interesting act to watch right now. They are a duo who are writing and producing everything by themselves. They are really slick at doing that, but there's also a grittiness as well to the way that they deliver it. There's a hypnotic quality to this as well that I really like. I am excited to dig into this album. I haven't had a chance to yet, but I definitely will. And I'm going to give Sideways an 8 out of 10 as well. And I promise I will err away from 8 out of 10. Not everything's going to be an 8 out of 10. On the Pop Pod today, maybe this one won't be. Hayley Williams, Parachute. Hayley Williams has been doing something really interesting over the past couple weeks where she has been rolling out a new album whereby she gave us individual tracks, 17 of them, and kind of said, sequence them any way you want. Do whatever you like with these 17 tracks and see what makes the most sense for you. She's given us some time to do that, and now finally today she has delivered the album Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party. She has sequenced the album herself now, and also at the end thrown on, I guess it's a bonus track. It's called Parachute, but it is not giving bonus track to me at all. This track is actually quite phenomenal. Very much has a 90s alt pop rock sound to it, somewhere between, I want to say Sheryl Crow and maybe Michelle Branch, but this is way grittier than that, and it way more, raucous in terms of what she does. It's incredibly emotional, incredibly direct with the lyrics. She says something about there's a lyric about almost, why didn't you stop me getting married if you knew it was going to end like this, which really cuts straight to the emotional core. I just think that it's one of the best songs on the album, to be honest. This record about feeling like you're totally falling. There's a despair to this. There's actually a despair to most of the album as she moves through it dealing with grief, but there's a particular despair to this song. And I think matched with the vocal delivery of it, it really just hit me immediately when I listened to it. I thought it was super, super impressive and a 9 out of 10 moment for me this week, which would make it a certified bop for sure. Blood Orange, he's been rolling out his album Essex Baby. This is the first record we've had from him in a while, maybe this decade. I know we had a mixtape from him, But in terms of albums, we haven't really got anything, but he's definitely been in the spotlight a little bit recently. He contributed to Lord's Virgin, and will go on tour with her later this year. He's also, I think, touring with Turnstile too. One of the most talented producers and artists around. The one that I've picked from the album to talk about is called The Train, King's Cross.
I can't seem to fall. Come to back when the worst is yet to come.
It pulls Caroline Polachek back into the fray. She's featured on a couple of songs from the album so far, including Mind Loaded, which was one of my favorite songs of the year. Also had Lord and Mustafa on vocals too. This one, I don't know, this might be a bit of a like throwback reference for you, but before Dev Hynes was Blood Orange, she was Lightspeed Champion, making like folky sort of rock 90s leaning music. And this one almost goes back into that kind of vibe, but has that more like elongated airiness that Blood Orange has developed in this like portion of his artist career. And I really like it. I think that Caroline Polachek gives such a lift to his songs with doing what I assume is sort of the least for her. It's so easy for her to deliver a lofty vocal, but there's a weightlessness that she's been bringing to all these Blood Orange songs that I just find so impressive and so nice to listen to. And they are the perfect combination. Shamake, which is another Blood Orange song, if you haven't heard it, go and listen to it. It features Caroline Polachek. And the way that their voices meld on it is just like absolute heaven. So good. And while I don't think The Train, King's Cross is quite as good as that song, it's definitely got a really nice quality to it. What I will say is Blood Orange songs don't always stand successfully by themselves to me. I think that he is really an albums artist, and you kind of need to listen to this in the sequence of the album for it to give you the full emotional effect. And for that reason, because I've had to cherry pluck it for the sake of this Bop or Flop game, I am going to give it 7.5 out of 10, but it is a beautiful moment, and listen to it within the context of the album, because then I think it really reaches its maximum effect. But Blood Orange is so super talented, and I'm such a fan. The Kid LAROI, She Don't Need to Know.
She wanna be in love, ay, ay, ay. She need to let it go, ay, ay, ay. She know I got a girl, but she say she don't need to know, ay, ay. She don't need to know. She got motives.
We need to talk about the Kid LAROI, because I don't really know what's going on right now. We're in this like droplet era where he's releasing a lot of different songs, and to me they've all had a similar vibe. The inspiration that he seems to be pulling from the most is Justin Timberlake's Justified, which I get because I know that now he's trying to move into this like almost like heartthrob pop boy kind of thing, which he's never really been, because he's always operated, apart from Stay with Justin Bieber, he's always operated more in, I guess, a hip hop adjacent world, but he seems to be really making a play for pop right now specifically. It's worked at times for me. It very much worked on Girls. I thought that that was a really good moment for him. There was another one that he had recently that I thought was pretty good. I will find it for you. Bear with me. It is called How Does It Feel? I thought was quite good. But then Hot Girl Problems really lost me, and this one loses me as well. I just don't think melodically it's strong enough to be like a stellar pop moment for him. And the thing about dipping into that Justified Justin Timberlake era, and even like giving reference to producers like Pharrell and Timbaland, is, yeah, they did have like a little bit of an urban flavor to it, but they had these really syrupy melodies to go on top that just hit and cut through and just gave radio hits straight away. And this just doesn't have that. It's a little bit repetitive to me. It's not quite there. And I just hope that he picks it back up, because I do think that he's had some great moments over the past couple years. Baby, I'm Back was great. Nights Like This was great as well. Stay, obviously, such a hit. Wasn't a huge fan of the Tate McRae collaboration on her record, but that's okay. This one I'm going to give a 5 out of 10 and hope that he has something more interesting on the horizon. I wanted to talk about an artist called Hannah Jadagu. I believe that's how you pronounce it, but please correct me if that's wrong.
I tell you to call. Only got some time. Tell me that you do too. I know what we do know.
She is about to release an album called Describe. I think if you like the kind of music that artists like Rachel Chinariri are making, this is kind of a little bit more folk leaning than what Rachel Chinariri does, but there's a delicate nature to it that I think that Rachel also has in her brand of indie pop. I am excited to hear this record because I think that Hannah is offering something really nice to the indie pop spectrum, and this song does a beautiful job at exemplifying that. It is soft and delicate and hypnotizing and kind of almost puts you in a trance, but there is enough to ground you. And I think the thing that grounds you is the fact that her voice is just so present, so upfront. And then I like that by the time you get to the production, the arrangement is a little bit more complicated, a little bit more dense, and pulls you into this world. She is obviously, I'll be surprised actually if she's not just a really calming person to be around, because her songs are really calming to listen to. And I just wanted to spotlight her because I think that she is one of the new artists around right now who's doing some very interesting things and is perhaps not getting the total respect that she deserves right now. She's had a couple songs reach almost like 5 million streams, but this is an artist that I see potentially blowing up over the next year or so, and the album Describe could do that for her. It's released on the 24th of October if you want to listen, and I'm giving this song an 8 out of 10. And moving on to Eli, who is another new artist that I've been talking about a lot. She is I guess you could say she was a Vine star a long time ago, but now she's making this really slick pop music that is playing. I mean, if you just go and look at her Instagram to see the kind of nostalgic period that she's dipping into, but she's playing with that whole almost garish kitsch American Idol like imagery and playing on this idea of being the next stage girl, having the it factor, I guess. And in doing so, she's making pop music that is really, really, really clean, but she has the writing chops to pull it off. And you can imagine if anybody else did this or anybody else was writing on this, it would come off as pretty on the nose and a little bit throwaway. But the fact that she is able to write like this, like the melodies are so good. One of her songs, Girl of Your Dreams, is one of my favorite songs of the year, and just written spectacularly. And then she's followed it up with Like a Girl.
You make me ask for sure, you make me touch that. You make me want, make me buy, make me live my sure. You always hold me down, make it big, bang, bow.
Which has a little bit more of an explicit tone to it. The beat though just flies across really effortlessly. It's got an almost espresso vibe to it. Her voice can reach like the most spectacular heights and then do these like runs that just fall down and almost melt you. Like she just has such a feel for, I'm going to just keep using the word melody when it comes to her, because I'm honestly so impressed with the kind of melodies that she writes. It's like a Max Martin level of mastery. And that's what she brings to this song. It feels effortless. It's easy to listen to, except for there's a lot to get into and really unpack about this. If you are a fan of like pop music construction and pop writing and stuff like this, this is basically a masterclass. This is an 8.5 out of 10 for me from Eli, and I'm just so excited to see how this thing develops. She's going to be doing headline shows in LA and New York over the next couple months. And I just feel this project is going to keep rising from a really important and interesting voice in pop music, somebody who's doing something that really none of the others are. And I love that. Big fan of Like a Girl. Last Time by Medium Build is the next one.
But it might be the last time that we kissed. You always take for granted what you have until it's missed. Don't you take for granted what you have until it's missed.
If you're not familiar with Medium Build, he is an artist that makes country music that almost leans towards like Zach Bryan, but stops itself in terms of the lyrics because it is very self-aware, very hard on sleeve, very emotional kind of stuff. And the way that he uses his voice portrays that kind of emotion. He had a song called Stick Around a couple years ago that is still one of my absolute favorites that I go back to all the time. And now he's given us Last Time. This one's like kind of danceable, and he's dancing in the clip for it. It still has a country folk flair to it, but there is something more to attach onto. And I guess that comes in the almost pop leaning hooks that he brings to the chorus on this and the danceability of it all as well. But he keeps the emotional heart to his songwriting. And what I like about it too is there's always something really rough around the edges with him. There's something rough about the way that he sings, the way that he lets the end of his sentences just kind of go wild, lets his voice crack, but is then also able to pull across the line a really, really strong hook and a really, really kind of heart-wrenching topic as well with all of his songs. And this one's no different. I'm a big, big fan of his work. This comes after he's just basically been releasing track after track like little droplets, and they've all been great. But I think that Last Time particularly stands above as a pretty exceptional one. I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10. Once again, I'm liking everything this week, but there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just giving you recommendations of music that I really love. The final one that I want to talk about is Skepta and Fred again, who have teamed up for a joint EP. This song's called London. Skepta has been having a bit of a renaissance recently, I suppose you could call it, particularly in the dance world. He's been doing a lot of dance moments, and Fred again being sort of the king of the dance world right now does something really interesting with Skepta. I really liked Fred again's work that he did a couple years back, probably like 5 years back now, with another British grime artist called Heady One. And I think he brought an intensity to his work that was really, really impressive and kind of the start of Fred's career really exploding. And he does a similar thing with Skepta on London, where he just is able to inject like through the way that he uses synths and the way that he lets those synths develop throughout the song brings a lot of power and a lot of energy and a lot of emotion to what Skepta's saying. And I think that that is very impressive. I think that Fred has obviously worked sampling a lot of vocalists, but he works really well with rappers. And maybe it's just because I missed the time when like the rap and dance worlds were very much intertwined. I really think that that was like one of the best periods for rap, when people like Jamie XX were working with people like Young Thug. Like that was a very cool moment, and it's cool to see it happening around the UK grime scene, which I think hasn't sort of had the international recognition that it deserves over the past decade. It had a moment when Skepta was taking off with a song like Shutdown, and his whole crew was doing really well as well. But I think that that's kind of faded, and it's nice to see it coming back into vogue in some kind of way with Fred on this. I like this. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think that it's strong. If you like my recommendations generally for new music, you can follow Pop Sam Cam's New Music Friday playlist, which is on Spotify and Apple Music. I will drop that in the show notes down below if you want to check that out. And then Jono and I will be back next week to react to all the new music that will be coming our way. I'm not actually sure what we have next week, but I will look at that. For now, though, I want to get into an interview with Audrey Hobert. I've already told you how much I love this debut album that she's released. She is a really interesting artist to unpack because she says a lot of things on this record that you wouldn't expect a pop artist to say. And it almost feels like, you'll hear when I say this in the interview, that I feel like there's not a single full stop on the record, and it literally just feels like unfiltered word vomit. And I think that there's a lot that people are going to relate to with this record in terms of how she talks about body positivity, social anxiety, and she does so in just such a real way that doesn't feel contrived at all, that feels totally from her perspective, straight out of her without overthinking it. And on top of that, it's hooks galore. It's really entertaining. It's really adventurous in terms of the kind of styles that she goes into. There's sax solos that fly out of nowhere. The lead single has this like rollicking chorus that almost just gets in your brain and boggles it around. There are ballads that manage to be a ballad without being straight down the line and really just like boring, I guess is the word that I'm looking for, because her perspective and her tone of voice is so interesting to listen to. I hope that I've done the album some kind of justice in explaining it to you, because it is really good. And she is gaining a fan base quite rapidly, I think. It was only a couple months ago that she released the first single, Sue Me. It was a pleasure to talk to her. She was exactly what I thought that she would be like. Very funny, very candid, and very unfiltered. And I'm going to play you that chat right now.
I spend my days for 20 plays, so vacant tanning on the roof. I'm taking thirst drops in the mirror in my room. I think I look bad, so I take 100.
I am so excited to talk about this record. I feel like I don't even know where to begin, because when I was listening to it, in my mind, I was like, I feel like there's not a single full stop in this entire album. It's just like a train of subconscious thought, which I think is amazing. And there's something like so thrilling about listening to that. I guess as a starting point, like, was that what it felt like to write it? Like, did it feel like it was just rushing out of you?
Very good question. Yeah, I think because songwriting was such a fresh thing for me, I wrote this album in, what's 12 minus 4?
8.
Okay, I wrote this album in 8 months. Which like to me sometimes it felt grueling and long, but I guess, it actually, I don't know if it'll ever happen that fast again. Who's to say? But yeah, I guess looking back, I am kind of describing it now to people as a somewhat manic state I was in, but I didn't feel like I was like Hunter S. Thompson or anything, like smoking cigs and drinking during the day. But I wrote a lot and all the time. And a lot of that had to do with how kind of isolated I was, like kind of in solitude. But I'm glad it happened the way it did. And rock on.
But what I'm so surprised by is like, this isn't the plan for you, really. Like when you're thinking about what you're going to do, like a debut album isn't kind of in your sights several years before this. So like, how does it just come to you like, oh, actually, yeah, maybe I will do this?
I mean, it just feels like everything lined itself up for me in a really amazing, fabulous way, where I started writing with Gracie. I had not written music before, started writing with her because we were roommates and just great friends, and it happened very naturally between the two of us. And then when we wrapped up for that, I had just discovered this thing that I really like to do, so I figured let me give it a whirl on my own. It feels like a Disney Channel original that one day I'll hopefully get to make one day, of how this all happened. But in the meantime, I'm just waking up. What I can tell you is that every day I wake up and I throw those sheets off me and I leap 6 feet into the air out of bed because I can't believe this is my life.
So this feels like this was the right thing. It sounds like it was the right thing to do from my perspective, but it feels like it's the right thing.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I just enjoy doing it so much. I really had the greatest time writing and making all of these songs with Ricky Gourmet, who did the whole album with me. Best party I've ever been to.
I love that. I mean, the first time, obviously I'd heard your work with Gracie, but hearing Sue Me for the first time when it came out, I was like, this just sounds like the work of somebody who's very inspired and also very comfortable with who they are as an artist, which is rare to get from somebody on the first song. And I imagine like not having that time to really think so deeply about who you are going to be as an artist and have like label heads in your ear being like, you should work with this person, you should try this. I imagine that's kind of a blessing in disguise in the end.
I mean, definitely. It felt like I, at no point, was being asked to be anyone but myself, and I'm an articulate person. I think I'm like because I've spent time in a writer's room, I know how to pitch, and so I was always very clear to the people who I was working with about what this was going to be. And in terms of like developing as an artist, like there is no artist. It's me. Like there's no shtick. I'm not kind of even trying to box myself in terms of like an aesthetic. I sort of like, I push back against that because I don't think that's the nature of being alive on this planet. Like I think one day I'm tomato girl, next day I'm, rat trap chick, like whatever that fucking means. But like I'm a writer. So I just wrote, and I now and also I do all the creative as well because like so fun.
The best part.
Oh my God, the best part.
Where does it begin for you? Like, is there a song that starts this off, and did the song make the album?
Yeah, I actually like pretty much every song I've ever written by myself is on the album. Like I didn't write. Yeah, I didn't write 30 songs and narrow it down. I wrote 12 songs. And yeah, so Wet Hair, which came out a few weeks ago, that's the first song I ever wrote and finished.
Wow.
Chateau was the second song I wrote. And then I wrote I Like to Touch People. And then I wrote Sex in the City. And after I wrote Sex in the City was when I sort of decided I would like to be a singer. I would like to make an album. So yeah.
It's crazy to me that you write Wet Hair and it takes you 5 more songs to be like, actually, I'll do this. I would be.
That's so sweet.
I would be trying to book myself on the main stage of Coachella.
Oh my God, wow, that's so kind. Yeah, a lot of people who are on my team really liked Wet Hair, and I sort of didn't feel like it was my best work. But I think the nice thing about that song is it's just, the first one I ever wrote, and you can just hear, I think, my like natural ability in that song. I think there are other songs on the album that I'm far more proud of the pacing, of the storytelling, and the lyricism, but it's on the album. Like I like it,
Well, it's great. Do you kind of feel like, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this, but do you feel like the reason you wrote 12 songs is because when you start something, you have to finish it? Or was it just happening so free-flowingly that those songs just, like, by luck came together without you having to trash one?
That's so funny. I was just talking to somebody about if I'll like start a book and if I'm not in by the 100th page, I'll just stop reading it. And like, if I can't really keep going on something if I already don't believe in it, just for the sake of finishing. I know there are people who are like, even if it's not I know it's not great or it's not my best work, I will finish it anyway. I'm really not that way. I think like most of these songs have like 6 different second verses, and I worked, to the bone on all of them. Some happened quicker than others, but I would spend like Sex in the City was a song that I spent a week and a half on writing from morning till night. And some days I would get 2 lines that I loved, and then that would be a great day. And then a song like Phoebe, I sat down and wrote the first part the first line through the end of the chorus, and then didn't pick up again for like 2 months because I couldn't figure it out.
Wow.
Yeah, so I like I like to throw my back into them. I like to take time with them. I think that's why I had such a hard time being in sessions, just like standard songwriter sessions, because there's like a loop going on in the background, and then the producer has a dinner at 6, and like the person you're trying to write with, you barely know. I actually find it overstimulating, and for a while I wondered if I was even like if I was just cut out for it in general. But if I can be by myself, like I can really take my time with it and have fun ultimately.
Tell me about Thirst Trap, because that's one that stands out to me immediately. Is it a sax solo at the end? That's quite a moment. And it feels like one of the most boisterous tracks on the album. Like, what's the beginning of that look like?
I mean, so I wrote Thirst Trap at home on the guitar. Last summer, I had a huge crush on this guy, and I was finding that like I felt like I was able to distill this feeling I've had finally as an adult, like my whole life, which is to me having, I think that I know a lot of people who kind of, in order to feel alive, they like to have a crush or like an object of their affection, just someone to wish for, pine over, and then eventually get. And I am the opposite, where I think that like a crush makes me feel boring a lot of the time, because instead of thinking about like all of the things I naturally think about during a day, I'm thinking about like one dude. And like I just felt frustrated last summer liking this guy. I was in this like 2-week period where I didn't particularly have much to do, so I would like tan on the roof, which was something I never found myself doing before. And like I would like, you know, try and see myself in every reflective surface possible. I just felt like self-involved and boring. And so I wrote that one at home. I wrote up until the bridge, and then was still so consumed by this crush that I had to put the song down. And then once I had gotten over him and realized it wasn't going to happen, was when I was able to like pick it back up. And I think it actually wrapped up the song in a nice way, the perspective that I got, because I was able to like that line, I once read that some people's beauty can't be captured and he'll be sorry, happy ever after. I was like, I don't think I could have written that a few months ago when I was still in the throes of like loving this man. Yeah.
That's actually so interesting to me, because I've just been like listening this week to Chapel Roan talk about like the Subway, her new one, and how she wasn't able
it's so
to.
good.
It's amazing, incredible.
It's so
but
good.
like the way that she was talking about how she couldn't possibly finish it while she was still like in the throes of this heartache is super interesting to me, because I feel like some songwriters really just like tunnel through that and they'll just like go full throttle through that emotion. But it's interesting to hear you say that you find perspective helpful in these scenarios.
Yeah, and I think it's also trusting, like, I often sometimes, if I'm writing a song, I'll just want the full version to exist so badly that maybe I do just finish it. I can't recall like a particular time, but sometimes it's actually just too painful. Like, I don't even want to write the song anymore. I don't care if the full version doesn't exist. And then, but like that was one that I played for Ricky when I had written most of it. And he was like, that's my favorite thing you've ever brought into me. And still I was like, meh, I'll finish it later, you know?
You were like, guess I'm going to have to get over this.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess from your writing process with Gracie in the very early on process, that's obviously an incredibly vulnerable album to write on. And I think you bring a similar vulnerability to your debut album as well. So do you become quite used to, in that sense, like going into topics that feel quite raw, I guess, even when they're not specifically yours?
Yeah, so it's funny. I've talked to a few of my friends who also write and just do songwriting, and I know some songwriters and artists who are, you know, feel like they're bearing their soul to the world when they put out something, and I never felt like that writing any of these songs. I never felt like, God, can't believe I just admitted to this. Like when I sit down to write a song, I'm, all of my brain power is going towards trying to craft something. It feels more like craft than like vulnerability. But like a song like Phoebe was one where I was particularly like, okay, yeah, no, this is how do I say all of this in a way that is as empowering as it can be? That's something it's like my rule for myself is if I'm gonna like air out a grievance or if I'm going to be upset, I have to turn it around and make it okay, at least by the end.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And like, but I've found that like, particularly with you saying you don't find it as much like as you're bearing your soul, and I think that's what's made it so easy to get to know you as an artist in a very short amount of time, because particularly by the time we got to Bowling Alley, which I think is single number 2, I'm like, we're best friends. Like that, like it's just so instantly relatable, which I think is quite cool and quite rare. But like one of the things that I have found interesting with you is like, obviously it's my job to try and like connect artists to other artists and make other people feel like they're listening to something quite comfortable. And every time I catch an influence with you, it like goes within like a second. I'm like onto something else. I'm like, oh wait, it sounds like this. Or wait, it sounds like that. The biggest one that I've been able to pick up is like Hayley Williams, and Paramore, particularly like with the way she's written on later projects. But that's like the only tie that I've been able to make at all. So I'm interested, like, what music are you listening to growing up?
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing comparison. But yeah, I mean, my parents played a lot of Beatles and like Sheryl Crow and Norah Jones, and my mom was a huge musical theater person. I'd say like that was what we were listening to in the car, was musical theater, like Into the Woods and Hairspray and stuff like that. And then when I became conscious, I loved the Disney Channel music. I loved Hannah Montana and Miley. I loved Taylor. I loved like Justin Bieber, My World 2.0. And then I sort of got into like the Arctic Monkeys in middle school and like some random like beach goth stuff. I have like a pretty eclectic taste, I'd say, but the through line is just this like Rolodex of pop music knowledge that I don't know where it came from or why I retain it all, but I just adore pop. I really do.
So are you one of the type of person who can't listen to other things while you're working on music, or are you able to let like other influences come in?
I didn't even really do it consciously, but I wasn't listening to music much writing this album at all. I mean, certainly I never sit down and write a song and think I want to sound like this person. Like I have no choice in this life but to sound like myself and be myself at all times. So that's the interesting part, is what do I want to say? What is my slant? Who am I? What is my voice? But yeah, like obviously unconsciously, all of those things that I grew up loving and love to this day are floating up in me.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting experience to try and pick you apart and really kind of end nowhere every time with, other than it's very you.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing to me.
Exactly,
I like that.
a very good thing. The creative part of this album is very interesting to me as well, because it's so cohesive and so you as well. I wondered, like, at what point do you start to think about the creativity of this album or the visual kind of personality of it? Because to me, it feels like it's interwoven with the music and the creative process of songwriting in some way.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that was the goal. I think like where it began for me was Sex and the City was the fourth song I wrote, and I wrote it in New York in my brother's apartment. And when I finished that song, it took me a week and a half. I woke up the next morning at 6 a.m. and I was like, the title is Who's the Clown? And the cover is me smiling at the camera, and then behind me a window, and then behind the window a clown staring at me. And it just was in my head. It woke me up. And I just think like the clown imagery I sort of was, I justified it as a way to sort of capture people's attention, like because I knew I wanted the clown on the album cover to be scary, and I just thought, what better way to grab people's attention than to scare them? Like I just wanted people to be frightened by the album cover specifically, especially because it's paired with like just pop music. But yeah, like the music videos, I also knew, like when I signed my record deal, I knew I'm gonna direct all these videos. I want all of them to be different. I have aspirations to be a filmmaker, so I didn't go to film school, and so I'm kind of like treating I learn a lot every time I shoot a music video. So yeah, it's all just like I can't explain where it comes from or why. For Sue Me, I knew I wanted to be dancing in a wide, in a bedroom, and in a teacher's lounge, or like Bowling Alley. I knew I'm like that's my short film, and then Thirst Trap music video, just fever dream. But it's all just fun to me. It's all just fun.
I have to wrap this up soon, but I ask everybody who I've spoken to, and I know that like being a huge pop fan, you will have a good answer for this, but I ask like, what do you think, what first comes into your mind when you think of a 10 out of 10 pop song, like perfection?
Okay. I mean, I have two answers. The one that I've given to this question is blank space. Like, I just think.
Yeah. No one said that yet, and that's one of my answers. Yeah.
Blank space, and then another one is, and it's perfect to me. I really, it's like one of my most streamed songs ever is Do Me, Kim Petras.
Wow. Yes. Yeah, that is a really good answer. I actually haven't thought of that in the context of this. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if I were you, and I wish I could be you for this, I would hang up and go listen to it right now.
You should do the same. No more interviews.
Okay.
Just stop the press now. You've got to listen to Do Me.
Sorry, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's important business when creativity calls, you know.
Yes.
This has been a pleasure. The album is a smash. I've really enjoyed getting to know this music over the past couple of weeks. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for your time and such great questions. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank
Go
you.
listen to Kim.
I'm going to.
See ya. That is it for the Pop Pod this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited to bring you the next few weeks' episodes. I recorded 2 of them yesterday, and they are 2 of the funnest episodes that I've ever recorded. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to hear those. But I appreciate the support. I appreciate you listening to me. And as always, let me know if you have any ideas for the podcast. Throw it in the comments or email me at the email down below. Have a great weekend.